I can't do it. That's right. Not so anonymous with EJ Recca.
We're here with Evan B, man. Evan, first of all, thank you for doing this, man. Thanks for letting us in your house.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know Evan. Man, I know Evan from my time in the Salvation Army Rehabilitation Center.
Doozy.
Do you mind if I tell people where I first met you, like our first interaction?
Well, it wasn't at the country club.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, you can go ahead and tell them.
I think so. I was with the intake coordinator. I was in a trustee position, and we picked Evan up at San Joaquin County Jail. We were in rehab for probably about 3 months together before I completed the 6-month program. And this is like, recovery is such a crazy thing because you can never say who's going to get it and who's not going to get it, right? Like, we were in with so many guys, and it goes the same for anything. Like, I wouldn't have bet my wet socks on myself that I was going to stay clean at
Absolutely
first, right?
not. Yeah.
And here we are. We're like 6 years down the road, and I just see this dude accelerating in life, right? I see his Facebook posts, and it seems like things are always getting better and better and better. And so I definitely, when I got the opportunity, wanted to have Evan on here. So, man, thank you for taking the time for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to be here, man. It's never thought you'd be coming over here, man, to talk about recovery when I first met you. I'll tell you that much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your clean date, Evan?
September 14th, 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean to you?
Man, that's a loaded question. It's, it means everything. I mean, without my clean date, they say, like, if I kept using drugs the way I was using drugs, I'd be dead, right? It's like my disease was so bad and so insidious that I firmly believe that my punk-ass disease wanted me alive to suffer as long as possible. My clean date to me means, you know, this woman that I love, I get to marry her October 6th. This house that we're sitting in, my name's on the freaking deed. I'm not just here right now, you know, without the owner's permission. You know, my wife, the woman I love knows I'm here. It's just the gift of life, man, that I don't deserve, but I get to have because, you know, I just held on to my fucking seat.
Right.
Yeah.
And so people watching this, they probably like are looking at you, looking at me, and they're probably like, oh, these guys don't know what it's like, right? Especially if somebody's deep in their disease right now. So we usually like to take some time and qualify ourselves. What gives you the right to speak about the disease of addiction, right?
So I'll just take it way back. You guys want to?
Let's go.
You guys want to identify? Let's go. I had a childhood, an immaculate childhood, right? I had a mom and dad that loved each other. I got a million presents on Christmas. I had a big house, wonderful childhood. I had a dad who was charismatic. He was a rock star, right? And that same dad struggled with, his own demons, substance abuse, right? Long story short, he died in a pool, in our family pool, when I was 17 years old, you know, one year shy of becoming a man. So that's stuff that I'm still working steps on, or not working steps sometimes on today. You know, it depends what kind of place I am in my spirit. But so dad dies, I'm 17 years old, get sent off to Northern California, man. From that point on, I was homeless basically from the time I was 17, got into hard drugs, 18. You know, then I decided it'd be a good idea to move from Mendocino down to, Manteca, Stockton. And, that's, if you haven't been, I suggest, going there and living on the streets there. It's wonderful there. It's absolutely great there. I spent, from the time I was about 17 years old to the time I believe I was 23 years old, I was homeless, showering behind Walmarts. I still remember the worst feeling ever being homeless, man, is when you're sick. You have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to lay your head. You just want people to acknowledge you. You know, you have no contact with your family. So that's it for me. There was nothing glamorous about my use. I wasn't slanging anything. I was 5 sacks, trade a pair of shoes, riding a mountain bike with flat tires, just total knock was my story.
Yeah.
Absolute knock.
So like, what is homeless like from like? I mean, this has got to be like a complete like clash of culture from like this wonderful childhood, boom, huge trauma, homeless, streets of Stockton. Like, how does a person coming from this learn to assimilate to this so quick? I mean, how do you fit in the streets of Stockton? Like, how do you make it?
I started off in Manteca, and it was cool because I came from Mendocino, so I came with a lot of weed, right?
Yeah.
So naturally, when you have a lot of weed living out of your car at first, car broke down, had to sell the car for like $200, right? So then that's when I became officially homeless and not just living out of a car. But I came with a lot of weed, and and just in the using game in general, if you have stuff, it makes you more desirable to people in general. It doesn't matter who those people are. Luckily, I ran into some pretty rough and ready types, and that was in Manteca, and I became close with them. So even though I was kind of like this, hippie, preppy, shy kind of guy, I was able to share what I had with the right people at the right time. And that's because we do that in recovery now. We share what we have with the right people at the right time. So It's basically the same idea, just transfers over into recovery too, which is cool that I just thought of that. But that's basically it, man. I just met people and I was able to share what I had and they accepted me.
Yeah, because I mean, for me being from Los Banos, right, and then born and raised in Los Banos my whole life, and just going to treatment in Stockton, walking the streets of Stockton, it's like, how does anybody survive this?
It's rough,
right? I mean, that's a rough place.
I have scars from another bottle right here. I have a lot of scars and a lot of memories, man, from those times. So
like going like forward, like obviously is like, what does that look like from this point of your life? Like, gives you that gift of desperation? Like, I mean, I got to imagine you realize when you're out there, like, this isn't for me. Like, shit's got to change, right?
Waking up, man. Couldn't have said it better, man. You wake up, it's freezing during the winters, right? I'd wake up behind the Walmart, man, just freezing cold, wet socks, and I would remember just literally crying, like just wondering how my life got to this point. Like, recovery doesn't happen overnight. Same, getting fucking your whole situation doesn't happen overnight either. It was just a series of steps that I made that put me in this fucking spot that I could not believe that I was in. And I remember just crying, and I still remember that to this day. I have friends in recovery who think they can smoke weed. I have friends in recovery, it's different for, I try to say it's different fucking for everybody, right? I know what works for me, and I just remember that fucking prayer, man. If you give me one shot, I swear I'll take advantage of it. And that shot came in the form of a prison sentence. We can get to that later, but that's what basically, after all this thinking and all this shit, like, how did I get here? That's what gave me my gift of desperation, man, is a joint suspended prison sentence. And I like to act tough, but when it comes down to actually taking a prison sentence, it's makes you think about a couple things.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine, right? Like, I was a walk-in, right? And a lot of people would look at me like I was the craziest guy in there. Like, what the fuck do you walk in?
Oh yeah,
for?
You walk-ins were different, bro. We looked at you guys like these fucking clowns.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get clean and I wanted to stay clean, right? And so, getting that prison sentence was like, it doesn't feel like a gift at the time. Right, but now looking back on it, like,
total God shot.
Yeah, because totally. I mean, were you when you were out on the streets and doing those things before? Were you exposed to recovery at all, or did you even have a concept of what that would look like?
I mean, it was a sucker's, to me, it was a sucker's thing. Just like when I was if you were to because I got arrested, I had a big rap sheet. I was chronically going to jail, right? So anybody that took a program to lessen their time or go to the pro or tell the judge, hey, I need help, they were a sucker, right? So you go to jail, you do your time, you get out so you can keep ripping and running and fucking around again. So that was my process. I did 6, 7, 8 times in county jail, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, and then you're just, hey, shoot me the max so I can get out and fucking keep getting high. Right. And that last time I finally, probably $135, 135 pounds, just broken, and I just finally spoke up and I said, dude, can I please have a program? And that's when he gave it to me.
Right. And so the Salvation Army, was that your first program?
As an adult, yeah.
Yeah.
I got in fuck tons of trouble when I was a kid too, and they tried to make you do that stuff and never took it serious. You know, paid for rehabs that my parents paid for, all that shit, man. But this is my real shot.
You're out on the streets with, you know what recovery looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. So like at that point in your life, was it like, you know, like I don't trust this process, or it just hasn't gotten bad enough? Like, I mean, because a lot of people will say like, man, I had a head full of recovery and a body full of dope, and it was the worst place to be. Mm-hmm. You know, but for yourself, it seems like you had been exposed to this all along, and you knew what that life could be like, but you were just choosing the latter.
I mean, recovery is like a living process, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can know what recovery is like and what it feels like, but if I'm not fucking doing the things, it's just an idea, right? So, I mean, of course, like, I'm out there like, hey, I don't have to do this. It's like fucking my disease was so fucking strong, and so I wasn't doing anything to put myself in a better position spiritually, financially, emotionally, none of that stuff. So that's just a bleeping thought, you know, in the back of your mind, like, hey, I can not do fucking meth and heroin and eat stripper ass and fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it just becomes the normal, and you become so habitualized to these maladaptive behaviors and all this weird coping mechanisms and all this weird shit that it just becomes an unrealistic thought, and you don't even want to daydream about it because it's too good to be true and it can't happen to you, and it's a weird, strange thought process that you get sucked into.
When I used to think anybody that did anything without using was a square, right? Or I thought like why would you even want to live without changing the way you feel before anything in life, right?
Thanksgiving, yeah. Fucking, why would you eat turkey without getting high first? It's crazy.
Yeah, and so like I understand that mindset. So then there's a shift, right? So then you end up catching this prison sentence, right? You end up in your first program as an adult. At that point, did you really want to change, or was it like I'm just
fucking dog? No, at that point I didn't, man. I was shitting bricks, right? Because I'm one of those people that if you put me in a position to succeed, I'm going to fuck it up. One way or another, I'm going to fuck it up. I was the kid in, sixth grade math class that if everybody was understanding this math equation or what was being taught, I would interrupt the class so no one else could learn because I was scared of being left behind and not being able to fucking learn it. I didn't want people to know that I couldn't learn this, so I didn't want them to learn it either, right? So I get put in this situation where I fucking have to succeed. 3 years, 8 months joint suspension. Right. So it means I already signed up for my prison sentence. If I were to complete this program, then I'm good. I can walk, right? So I'm put in this situation where I have to succeed, and I know that I'm fucking awful in these situations. So I did everything that I could to fucking sabotage myself.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. I did everything. I bet you didn't know that at the time that I had 3 years, 8 months riding on the fact that I complete this program with the way I was fucking acting there.
No, and that was the thing but you could see. It was hard to really judge who was going to do what in that program looking back on it because it seemed like everybody that went in there wanted to change.
Right. Oh God.
But do you really, right? And so like that I would consider, cuz your clean date, you stayed clean. But you just didn't make it through the program, right?
Didn't make it through that program, didn't make it when I got kicked out. I couch surfed on my uncle's couch for about 2 weeks, went to another program, got kicked out around the 6-month mark again, didn't make it through another program. I failed 2 programs, got into a halfway house, and did fine there because I didn't have to do a bunch of structured stuff. But yeah, I mean, anyone that's listening, you don't need to succeed at a program to get this thing, man. The only program that you need to succeed in is whatever program you choose to better yourself in whatever that may look like.
Yeah, because, like, for me, like, everything, like, in my mind going to this program, I had to complete this program in order to start with a success to keep doing that. Like, that's how my brain works. But, like, I was amazed to hear that you had failed at that one, another one, and stayed clean throughout. So what does that process look like for you? Do you stay plugged into other avenues of recovery? Or do you just kind of be like that joint suspension was so fucking scary, you just didn't want to use anymore?
I really can't tell you what what it was, man, that kept me plugged in. I really cannot. I know I followed suggestions. I know that because I had a week, because when you're in, what do they call that? Like when you have inpatient, when you're in like an inpatient recovery, you're plugged in there. You know what I mean? So that's what I had. I had my clean time in jail. I had what I learned in the Salvation Army, and I had a garbage bag full of shit when they kicked me out. You know what I mean? So I remember the night I got kicked out, I was walking down Wilson Way with a garbage bag, and I talked to this guy in front of a hotel. And looking back, I think honestly that guy was ready. He made it clear that he had crank and he probably wanted to have sex with me. You know what I mean? So I just used his phone call. I was like, all right, I'm about to fucking, you know what I mean? I'm about to do whatever. I'm about to smoke crank with this guy if my fucking uncle doesn't answer.
Thank God for your uncle, right?
Yeah, right, dude. I would have been sore in the morning, dude. No, I mean, freaking, we do what we got to do, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a program of honesty. So my uncle answers. He lives in Oakland, right? So he's this fucking hard-nosed, old-school program, fucking, I don't know, tough love type guy. I call him. He was my one phone call from this guy's phone. He's in Stockton visiting my other uncle, and he's like, stay where you're at. I'm coming to pick you up. So he was able to pick me up. Still had no support system. It wasn't until I got to my other program and you had a little bit more freedom and you can kind of find what any sort of 12-step program means for you, and you find your identity and you find your herd. And I was lucky to meet some great people in the Mission Peak area that you know, I really loved and I identified with, and I wanted what they had. You know what I mean? So I don't know what it was that kept me clean through all that, because I got kicked out for using the cell phone. So they kicked me out and I got sent to that other program. I forget where I was going with that, but I forget where I was going with that.
Well, like early recovery, it's like so vital for people to get some wins, right? And it's so crazy. Like early on in your recovery, it's just like fail. Yeah. And you think that's what gave you like such a strong foundation, is finding yourself through all these failures? And I mean, I'm assuming you're starting to develop a relationship with a higher power of some sort that's carrying you through all this stuff, because I'm sure alone, like that's almost impossible. And then you find these people in Mission Peak, right? I mean,
my fucking higher power grabbed me by the back of my neck and dragged me across the way. And I confirm, what are the fucking chances that my uncle is just so happens to be in Stockton the night I get kicked out? He never goes up there. He was up there looking at a car. He just so happened to be spending the night there. I mean, there's just been so many different coincidences. When I used to ride my bike from the other program, I used to ride my bike to a job in warehousing. I used to pass the branch that my dad used to work at. My dad was, like I said, my dad was very charismatic. He was in sales. I was able to pass this fucking branch of Safety Clean Harbors every night to this warehouse job I had, until I finally reached out to that same branch. And it turns out the guy that runs that branch, who's now the district sales manager, knew my dad. And immediately when he saw me, he gave me a freaking job.
nice.
Yeah, so it's just this series of, like, if I were to just, my fucking higher power, I remember that conversation I had with him when I was behind the Walmart, fucking bawling my eyes out, wanting a new way to live. It's just, I was willing to do that. To this day, I think about that. I was willing to do anything I had to do if you gave me the chance. And I've gotten that one chance, and I just haven't looked back.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, like your life today looks pretty phenomenal, right? Like on our way to your house, I had to put a code into a gate.
Yeah, and it wasn't a prison gate?
No, it wasn't a prison gate, right? And so, like, that's pretty phenomenal, man. Like, I wouldn't, because I think there's like 4 or 5 guys in my Rolodex that are clean today. And we're talking a house of 80 men. And that turned over so many times. Like, it's pretty phenomenal to see people doing what you're doing, right? And that's why when we were thinking about this and I found out you're in Modesto, I'm like, cool, we got to get Evan on, man.
Yeah.
So what does early recovery look like for you? So now you're out of the programs, you're plugged into a 12-step recovery fellowship. Do you just find your groove right away? Is it like, I belong here, this is what I should have been doing? Or is it kind of like, what does that look like for you?
I think it's a little different for, there's people that genuinely want to change, and then there's the people that want to fit in, and then there's the people like me that don't know what they want really, and they just like, it's sad. Like, I'm such a people pleaser that the people I want to surround myself with, I'll learn to excel in, whether I want it for me or not. It's just, I kind of put myself in a position for this person to like me. So early on, recovery for me was basically these men that were better than I was at that time. I wanted to be like them, so I did what they did so they would like me. You know, it came down to something as shallow like that. Is I liked these people. I wanted them to like me back. When you're living in the program after doing these things just so these people would like you, then you kind of figure out, I like the way I feel now, so you start doing these things for yourself. So early on recovery for me, it was more about just kind of fitting in with these people the same way I did back on the streets. You know what I mean? I would just do what I had to do to kind of fit in with this crowd. Like, I knew about the program obviously, but I didn't know, you know, the ins and outs. So you start practicing those things, you know, whatever sort of program you're in, and it's like you figure out how that feels and you start doing it for yourself.
Yeah, and so then I assume you start winning, right? You start doing all the right
sometimes.
things.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Fucking totally, man. It's I've been lucky in the sense that like, there's people that'll be in the program for 20 years and still struggle financially. Yeah. You know, still struggle paying. Like, I was very blessed to get put in a position where I got a really good job, and I was able to hold on to that job and actually move up in that job. And I'm about to marry a registered nurse, you know what I mean? So as far as material things, I was able to obtain those really fast.
Right.
So that's something I've been really, like, once again, those are just opportunities that my higher power put up for me and dragged me across sometimes to go do them, because at the time, believe it or not, this company, Safety Clean, that I'm with now, was offering me a job as like an automotive territory manager. I just took care of like little automotive accounts, whatever. I had a job at landscaping, and at that time, to me, it was scary to leave a job in landscaping to go be like a little automotive account manager at this new company. So it was just a lot of fear. You know, I still struggle with fear today, but yeah,
learning to walk through those things, and so, like, I know, like, in recovery where we hang out, like, it's nice to get the financial stuff, but, like, learning how to love yourself and learning how to be a brother, a son, those things are the most important things, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
How long did it take before you were able to trust yourself? You know, I mean, it took me a couple years clean before I can go somewhere by myself and trust myself.
I still don't. I still call people. I still have to call people. You know what I mean? You know, I still don't trust myself completely, because I'll be driving down the fucking road stuck in traffic. I'll get in a fucked up state of mind and fucked up spiritual place, and I'll just randomly think like, hey, I love the smell of heroin. It's like just a random fucking thought, you know what I mean? And I have to call somebody, and thank God for, you know, the people in the program too. And thank God we're not, you know, out here just figuring this out for ourselves.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. Like, and I don't think it's funny, because my partner that we do this podcast with, I'll share some of my thoughts with him, like just the most random shit. He'll just start laughing.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck, right? But like, and that's what we need to surround ourselves with, people in recovery, because the crazy shit that goes through our head. Like, if you tell me when you're crazy, I'll laugh.
Yeah.
If you tell that to your pastor, he may not laugh.
Yeah, it's not.
Right?
Yeah.
It ain't that fucking funny.
Yeah, no.
You know, so, but yeah, man. So, like, what would you tell somebody, you know, that might hear this, that might be where you were at? You know, like, if somebody stumbles on this, like, what would you tell somebody that may be out there struggling, and they may be homeless, they may not see a way out of that, man? Like, what would you tell somebody like that?
Hang on to your fucking seat, man. It's my dog has a squeaky toy right now. I'm gonna beat the shit out of him. Just hang on to your fucking seat, man. Just hang on to your seat, man. I remember hanging out with dangerous people doing dangerous stuff was the normal, right? And it's like, you get into this place where you start out hanging out with people that are very loving and come with love and come with good intentions, man. And if you don't go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and if you don't do your fucking step work, and if you don't get a fucking, you know, if you get a fucking chick sponsor with nice fucking tits, or, you know, if you do all this shit wrong, just stay in your fucking seat and seek those people out that you identify with, who are in the program or saw it in the program, and just do what they do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because obviously what we're doing and what we normally like to do is get high and get like that's very normal stuff. It's like when we're hanging out with these people and these loving relationships, that's weird. That's not fucking normal stuff for us. So just get out of the normal and get into the whatever program you want to put yourself in and hang on to your fucking seat.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it's so important to hear from somebody like yourself that's lived through it all. You know what I'm saying? That's had the good childhood, ended up homeless, ended up bouncing back, and then now becoming a homeowner. Like all these things are possible, right?
Right.
With the ability to reach out and ask for help, miracles will happen. Miracles can happen.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, I think we just wrapped it up. I think that's good.
Absolutely.
Evan, I appreciate you doing this, man.
Yeah.
And we end it with a hug. We always end it with a hug, so you owe me a fucking hug. All right, man. Love you. Love you too, brother. Thank you so much.